again. Exhaust is done. All 3.5-inch stainless. Oval tube where it needs it. Muffler here, muffler right at the back. Really tight clearances around there. I've quickly painted it all black before the hurtful people of the internet make comments about my welds. So it's done. First attempt, TIG welding anything. It's holding. It's all good. It sounds terrible, and I think that guy's to blame. So I'm going to try and cut that piece out and put a resonator in there just to see how it goes, because the rear muffler is massive. I'll just roll down here. It's got a big muffler in the back here before it goes up around the tank over the top here. Yeah, real tight clearances, but that muffler itself should be more than enough to keep it quiet. So I'll put a resonator in the front just to get rid of the drone, and that should be good. And Ozpost have finally done a thing. First up, they didn't, but my welder's here, which is great. So that's my new toy. Got a couple of other little things too. The belt sander to linish all the exhaust flanges flat, and a bandsaw to cut them straight. Both second-hand units off Facebook Marketplace. Good scores, but that's good. But this is the real gem. We've got the Jakes D3 trans brake here, and the rebuild kit, which has finally made its way over here from Texas after dramas with US to Australian freight forwarders and customs and everything else. Massive expense. I hope it's going to be worth it, but all of that stuff there is going in that transmission, which is the next job. So I need to clean up all of this mess, because the exhaust is obviously a very dirty job, and this is going to be a very clean job. So I've got to clean up all the metal filings that are all over the ground, clean up all the other shit that I've just sort of spread everywhere because I've got not enough room, and clear this bench ready for transmission time. And that's as good as it's going to get for now. I'll clean up all this space. I moved all my XC70 parts underneath there for now. My father's making me a cart for that, so that's just going to sit on the ground for now. I don't need it for this job, so that's fine. All this stuff's just here for now. I don't know where I'm going to end up putting any of that stuff, but that's there. But it's allowed me to clear up this bench, so we can start doing the transmission stuff. So this is the full rebuild kit, all laid out everywhere. You can see we've got new sprags, new roller clutches, bands, bushes. There's a recal kit here as well, which I don't actually need because I'm using the trans brake, that guy. But I bought it for the other transmission just to have, so it wasn't much to add to the whole kit. So all the seals, we've got bonded pistons in here, got the billet input shaft, a new wiring harness that's immediately going to get pulled apart and ruined to add the wires in for the trans brake. So yeah, this is going to be fun. Some measuring to do, so I'm not going to bother filming all of this. You've seen me dick around with transmissions before. I've got other videos on the topic. I might just focus on the stuff that's different, which is, effectively the installation of the trans brake. And this is a bit different. I don't have one of these in my other one, which is your Sonax billet forward hub. I think it's a billet one. Heavy duty anyway, so I might focus on some of the differences, but apart from that, I'm just going to put it together and hope for the best. Right, that's all apart. That took about 10 minutes. I've had this apart before. I just wanted to check to see what kind of roller clutch or sprag this particular one uses, because it's either the blue one or the black one. In this particular case, it's got the blue one. I happen to have a black one anyway, but I wanted to make sure just so I didn't have to deal with it. Apart from that, they're identical as far as the old one and the new ones go. But the only real noticeable damage that I found with this transmission, it's actually looking really good. The pump all looks perfect. The clutches all look pretty good. The only damage I found was this guy. And that's this, that bushing in there. It's completely toast. I'm going to replace all the bushings anyway, but yeah, that seemed pretty significant. So I don't know what damage that, or what effect that would have on the transmission. Probably poor lube, because it lubes back through that circuit. So I don't know, maybe the lube will fall short and not lube the next item in line from here. But now that's what it is. All right, I'll start cleaning up some of these parts. So I've just got this up on the tripod to try and show what that flogged out bushing on the intermediate shaft has caused. You can't see it, but I'll take it out and show it. But that's the movement in the shaft. And on here, I think this is called the forward clutch hub. That guy sits on there, and that's been knocking against the side of the direct drum, and there's a bit of damage on the inside of there. It doesn't look like it's a sealing surface, and it should be supported by other bushings to a point where it doesn't normally touch. So I'm just going to clean that up and send it, because I don't think that will cause any harm. It's going to take me weeks, if not months, to get another forward hub. So I'm hoping that that just works fine. That's the damage inside. It's not as deep as it looks. It's more of a lip that's been formed. So I'm just going to tidy that up. So after a ripper start, of course, like the first instruction in this set is to install the rear bushing in the case, the rear included bushing. And then there's me that goes, yeah, I don't need to use that bushing. I'll use this bushing. It's a Sonax no walk bushing. It's better because it says so. Except the shim kit and everything is designed to fit on this size bushing. And it doesn't fit on the bushing that's actually in the case. And I don't have a bearing that fits that. Apparently they're ordered as a kit. I don't know how I had just one no walk bushing by itself, but I did. So now I have to wait. And this is all I can do with this for now. I've popped all new bushes through all of the drums in every area that had a bush in it. So they're all replaced. All new clutches, all new lip seals where I can change them. Everything there is assembled and ready to go. But I can't go any further until that rear bearing for the case arrives, which isn't here yet. And also found that there's damage where that knackered bushing was running on the intermediate shaft. So I'm going to replace that shaft. It'll probably be okay, but I'll spend enough money. I may as well put a shaft in there that isn't stuffed. So I'll wait for that, and then we can put the rest of it together. So moving on to another job, I've still got this tail shaft loop which I have to put in, which I've been putting off because I've got to pull all the carpet out to get the bolts through how I like it. So I've got some other jobs I want to fix up. The reverse lights aren't working because I think I've wired the relay backwards. I think it's got positive on one side of the trigger and positive from the neutral safety switch as well, so that won't do anything. I think that's my problem there. And I've also got to put in a shift position light that my dad made, so I'll do that as well. Oh, and another thing as well, I treated myself to some car builder stuff. So I've got the premium under bonnet insulation, which should knock a bit of the lifter tick and other associated noises out. And I've got some carpet acoustic liner, which I'm going to put through the boot just to sort of soften a bit of the exhaust noise that's coming back through from that area. I've already got that under the carpet and it works really well, but I've got flat panels in the boot, so I want to do that as well while I've got it all apart. And another thing I need to do, I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's actually a hole punched in the bottom of this transmission pan. I'd like to reuse this pan, so I'm going to use the old padlock trick and try and weld up that hole, and hopefully it holds fluid. I've just assembled the rear half of the transmission, so from the center support back with my new bits and pieces, and done a rear end play check, and it's come up as 7 thou. The window for the rear play is between 5 and 25,000. They aim to be on the tighter side when you're rollarizing the rear, which I am, so 7 thou is perfect. I've just got to wait for some more parts because I don't know where I've put it, somewhere here, over there. The forward hub has a little bit of damage where the intermediate shaft was rubbing. This part of the shaft was rubbing on it, causing some damage, so it's probably okay. I'm just going to get a new one anyway because I'm this far into it money-wise. I may as well put something that I know is going to be good. So I've got one of those on the way. It should be here in the next week and a bit, and then I can put the next part of the transmission together. Bonnet line is all done. I just cut some cardboard and stuffed it underneath the rim just to sort of get a pretty good idea of the shape I'd need to cut. Same for all these pieces, just a few pieces of cardboard, overlap them, tape them, mark them, then cut the liner out because this stuff's quite expensive and I didn't want to waste it. Even with what I've got here, that's most of the packet gone. I've got a little bit more to do this section here, but that's a later job because I need to take the wiper motor out to actually do a nice template, so I'm going to wait on that one. But I've already taken this for a drive. I've taken it out on a stinking hot day and given it a good belting. It's still stuck on there. It hasn't fallen off at all. It hasn't melted. It hasn't done anything weird. So I think it'll be okay. I was pretty skeptical that it'd be okay for the heat, but it seems fine. Moving along to the next job, I need to take the wastegate out because I want to put a heavier spring in here. It's got a 7-pound spring in here at the moment, but it doesn't make 7 pounds on that spring. I don't know why. I don't really care why. I know it's capable of making more than 7 pounds, so it's not a restriction anywhere now. But I want to make around 7 pound on the street minimum, and with a 7-pound spring, I can make about 5. So my theory is if I put a 10-pound spring in there, I should be able to make about 7 pound minimum, and then with the wastegate, not the wastegate, with the boost controller, I should be able to make up to about 15. So that's what I'm going to do. I can't get to it with where it is. I made it a little bit too tight to the water pump, so the lid won't come off easily to put new springs in. So I'm just going to take the wastegate off, change the spring to a 10-pound spring, put it back on again. Alright, so that guy had a green spring in it. I just need to look up on the book to see what rating a green is. I'm pretty sure that's a 7, but I'll work out what one it is to confirm and find the right combination. Alright, so I think this chart I found online is actually wrong. I hope it's wrong, because it only makes sense to me if it is wrong. But I had the green spring in. That's the correct spring for 7 psi. To run 10 psi, it says I just need to use the orange spring, which is this little fella here. But it also has the same reference if I wanted to run 3 psi. I think what it means, I should be running that and that to bring a total of 10. But there's not a checkbox on the chart. I'll pop it on the screen here so you can see it. But I think I need to run those two together. But I'm hoping the chart's wrong, because that makes sense to me, and I'm going to do that. So that's what's going in anyway. But yeah, weird. That's back in there now, but I'll just have to put the car up just to make sure that the screamer's going on the right angle. So I've got some pretty tight constraints in here. And if I get either of these two indexed incorrectly, it hits stuff it shouldn't. So I'll just pop it up in the air and have a look. Alright, see, it's through, but it's a bit close to the brake line, so I just want to turn it a little bit that way, and then it'll be better. Wastegate done. Time for the next job. Next thing I'm doing is putting in these rocker trunnions. They're just standard rockers in here at the moment, standard bearings and everything, and there's probably nothing wrong with them, but I like the idea of these, and it's a little noisy in the top end, so maybe that'll help, maybe it won't. Maybe it's stuff lifters, I don't know. But I'm going to do that and find out. Apologies from jumping from job to job. I'm literally waiting for parts to arrive, and when things come, I do them. So I'm halfway through a transmission, halfway through everything. It's just the way it's going to be. I'm going to start with this side. And although it doesn't look it, I think this side's going to be harder. I think I'm going to have trouble getting the rear bolt, the rear rocker cover bolt out, because I think it's going to hit the booster. I can't remember if I've taken it out before with the booster in place, so we'll find out. Well, that's the one I was worried about. It comes out okay, so the rest will be easy. Bit of old sludge in there. That's not from this build. I got these heads off Facebook Marketplace for $100 and just put them straight in. So they were pretty sludgy when I got them. Some of the rockers are the same, like that back one, for example. Came with the same heads. I just put the cleaner ones that I had in, and if I didn't have enough, I used sludgy ones. So, yeah. Another sludgy head. Not too bad. It's just got hard chunks in there that eventually fall off and clog up in the engine, but whatever. They're all ready to go in there. But I suppose this really shows I've put a lot of effort into planning where things go in this engine bay, because it's quite a tight space. It's not the smallest car in the world, but some jobs can be unnecessarily hard if you let them be hard. But like placement of this dump pipe, placement of like some of the wiring, like you saw, I've taken these out in under half an hour. That would be a lot more difficult if I put the dump pipe like a centimetre further that way. It's all those little considerations that you put into when you're building a custom car like this on how can you service stuff. And I can get to all the spark plugs. It's not easy. None of it's easy. The hardest one's still that one back there because it faces back towards a firewall. None of it's easy, but it's all doable. So yeah, I've certainly had more struggles with OEM cars than what I have on this. And I think the planning is the reason for that. There's the rig. 23 mil socket on the bottom, 12 mil on the top. One side of the rocker's actually got two little flats, and those flats balance nicer than the 23 mil socket. So press this out, repeat 15 more times. There's all the little needle rollers. They're just balancing there at the moment. They're just stuck by the oil, but they all fall out and go through your engine. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm genuinely impressed with how well they turned out. A little bit of effort. Some are better than others. It'd be nice if it would focus, but some are better than others. But all in all, they look pretty good to me. I just put them in one of these tubs, put some degreaser in the bottom, got my brush here, and put it on the end of my drill. Just went zzz, came out beautifully. This thing's crapped itself, so couldn't use that. So that can go in the bin. But yeah, pretty happy with that job. All right, next things I need to do is put the new bearings in and put them back in the car. So finished product, that'll focus. There's just one I've changed over. Those snap rings are tough, but yeah, pretty good. I'll do the rest. All done. Bloody hard work. Those snap rings are pretty tough, but real good. Two left over and a spare bearing. I'm sure that's for a reason. Probably from when those take off across the shed and you can't find them. So, now they're all done. Back in the car. Rockers all back in. All torqued to spec. I've just put a dab of paint pen on the bolts just to confirm to myself that I've done them. All good. I'm going to call it there for the night and get back into this in the morning. That is it for the easy jobs that I can get to. Now I need to move into the interior, pull all the carpet and seats out to start getting into the electrical and the tail shaft loop. And that's enough of the interior out for now. The tail shaft loop should probably come through here somewhere, so that gets anything important out of the way. So I'll do that part first. Someone's no doubt thinking that if I knew I had to do the tail shaft loop, why did I put the exhaust on in the first place? Well, I've actually been on a few car cruises and been on the dyno since I put that on. So I'll summarize that at the end of the video so it sort of makes sense. But yeah, that's the reason why. So now I need to have a look at the regulation book and work out exactly how far back that tail shaft loop needs to be. I had originally planned on trying to reuse these existing holes, but I know that's too far back. So I might loop it here, bolt it through the floor, and make like a brace that sort of goes from here to the trans mount, just to sort of box it all in. That's the idea anyway. Rule state, it needs to be within 6 inches of the uni. That's at 5 inches. I could go a bit closer, but then I've got the weight. I want to get as much clearance as I could possibly get. I think that's the best spot to put it, so I'll lift that up, mark it, and then weld some brackets on. I was going to try and bolt it on, but the floor's, that's not symmetrical. So I think it'll be easier if I weld this part and then the bottom can be bolt on. Yeah, that's the idea. Nothing is easy on a 240. It has to be in front of this line to pass regulation. I've just drilled a little pilot just to see where it goes through the floor, and that is directly in line with the seat rail, but it's a double panel as well, so there's probably a centimetre gap in between them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from the top and I'm going to hole saw down just enough for the socket that drives this bolt, pop that through the top hole, try and slip this washer in between, which will stop it stressing the panel, sort of spread the load out, and I should be able to drive the socket down from the top to bolt it. That's the theory. So back in the car. So there's my pilot hole just there. I've just knocked some of the sound deadener off there. I think I'll actually use a step drill just because it's on a curve, and the hole saws tend to bite when they're on a curve, so I'll just step drill that out a bit. My plan's working, but not as well as I'd hoped. There's the washer in there, but because the panels are closer together than I thought, the step drill's cutting the bottom bigger than the top I need, so I'm going to have to just die grind that so I can fit the socket in to tighten that bolt. So otherwise the bottom hole's going to be too big. But I put the washer in through here, through there, and you just pushed it across, so that will spread the load on that bottom panel, and it won't interfere with the seat rail, which runs right here, because it's all going to be below the surface. So it's working, it's just not easy. Okay, that's now success. So washer's in the hole. I drop the bolt in the hole as well, like so, and the socket just finger tight under the floor. I'll need to put another bolt on this one here, and then that will lift up in place, wherever that place happens to be there, and I can just weld that to that. Do the same on the other side, well, slightly different because the floor's a different shape, but same idea. Alright, moving on. Okay, just bolted that to the floor and put the bottom half of the loop on, and now we have the next problem. This wouldn't be a problem for most people, but it is a problem for me. So if I just get that guy and pop that there, that's on the rail, that's how far below it hangs. That's going to catch on every trailer I try and put this car onto, and be the lowest part of the car. So I'm going to try and take as much out of either of these as I can and just weld this as a solid loop. It will mean that I need to pull the tail shaft out to install it, but that's okay. I think that'll be fine. I don't plan on doing this every week. Yeah, I'll do that. Arguably took too much off, but it'll be all right. It can't get any closer. The diff's at full droop at the moment, so it can't get any closer there, and it actually moves sort of on that angle because it's a panhard rod rear end. The diff sort of moves that way and up when it goes up, so it'll be enough. I've just put a couple of booger tacks on here, and I'm just going to pull the tail shaft out just to confirm that I've forgotten the word, that butt fits through before I fully weld it out, because if it doesn't fit, that's going to be quite embarrassing. Well, the answer is yes. It does come out, but it's not easy. Future reference, if I have to take it out, I need to loosen this so it moves up and down on the tail shaft a little bit, but it is doable. I'll make it a bit easier next time, but I can take that off now, fully weld it and pop it back in. Other side bracket is cut down and tacked on there. That's going to be the whole thing. I was going to try and triangulate it to here, but it doesn't need it. It's got the big washers, it's pinching the panel. It will be good enough. So I'm going to pull this off now. Obviously I need to take the tail shaft out to do that, but that's no big deal. It's just sitting in there at the moment. It's not bolted in, so pull the tail shaft, pull the bracket off, finish weld, clean it up, paint it, bang it back in the car. I don't have any black paint left. This will have to do. No, I'm pretty happy with that. I still need to get in and tighten up those bolts. They don't have the same problem that this one does with the double panel. It does have a double panel, but the gap's like that, so I can get a spanner in between, so I don't have to cut an extra hole. But yeah, pretty happy with that. More than enough clearance for what the tail shaft's going to do. As I said before, it's at full droop, so it's not going to get any lower than that, so it's good. All right, moving on to the next bit. And the exhaust's back installed. Plenty of room. Again, it's not going to get any closer than that. it's rigid up until there, and the flex doesn't have that much deflection in it, so perfect. I'm going to wrap the video up here. I had planned on filming the completion of the transmission build, but parts have just taken forever to get here, and I'm tired of waiting for them. The video is going to be over the course of 3 months. It already has been almost 3 months just tacking odd jobs together end to end to try and make some kind of sense of this video. I don't ever really want to release a video of just one thing. I'm not going to do all that cinematic stuff. I'm just going to sort of show what I'm doing, and it takes forever to try and position the camera everywhere to show it as I'm doing it, so that's unlikely to happen here. But that's the sort of that's what I've been up to for the last couple of months. I did mention that this has been back on the dyno. Kind of short notice, got it back on my mate's dyno. Managed to get 475 real kilowatts out of it, which is less than last time. And the reason for that is, once again, the exhaust is too small. So I got 484 kilowatts out of it at nearly 12 pounds with no exhaust. I'm now getting 475 kilowatts out of it with 9 pounds of boost and the full exhaust. So the exhaust is restrictive. I'm going to put another electric flapper in there for if I want more than 9 pounds, which I will when I'm at the track, but it'll be too loud on the street. So I'm still debating where I put that in the exhaust. So I don't want to have to drop it for drag racing duties. And they've got to have something on the street around here, otherwise it's just going to be too bloody noisy. It's too noisy for me still as it is, but it'll have to do. So I didn't film anything at the dyno. As I said, it was kind of short notice, and it'll look exactly the same as the last dyno, just sound a little bit different, so nothing to see. The next video will be, I would expect that other transmission being built and put in the car. I am going to put that in the car anyway. That was always the intention. That transmission is going to be infinitely stronger and better than the one that's in the car. But the reason I dynoed it with what's in here is I needed closure that I'd fixed the problem with what is in here at the moment. After I'd pulled this transmission out, it wouldn't have made any sense to me to put it back in if I didn't know it was working. And because I've already been through it so many times, I didn't know where else to go with it. So those couple of little things that I did, I cleaned up a surface that was a bit rough. I changed the boost spring and the pump to give it a bit more pressure. They seem to have fixed the problem. It's not slipping at all now, so it now works, and it's going to function as a perfectly good spare. If I ever do like a drag challenge sort of weekend, I'll have a transmission I can take with me just in case. Or alternatively, it's a perfectly good transmission that I can sell knowing that it does work for the next person. Whereas previously I wouldn't have been able to sell it knowing that it may have had an issue. No issue now, all good, but as I said, I'm still going to swap the transmission out because I want that trans brake, I want that billet shaft, and I want to go 9s. So hopefully on the next video, or the video after that, you'll see me going 9s. Alright, thanks all for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, it does help. And yeah, see you next time. Now, I need to get this piece off.
Okay.
1, 2, 3,
and 4.
4.
Do you want to have 4 of those?
Yeah, 4 on this side and 4 on that side. But I only need to do this one.